Welcome to Center Cup. I am here once again with Nick Newmeyer, second day in a row. We're back. A lot of stuff to cover today. You can kind of see it in the title card here, but we're going to be spending a lot of time probably on Brian Rolapp's press conference. I think that'll be the focus of today's show. We will get a lot of tour championships. New current tour championship. We will get to it. We will do a little brief preview, but we're going to focus on the future of tour championships. What Brian Rolapp gave us. There's again like too many things to go through that I can't all name in one, but we've got match play. That's the big one. I think that's kind of the headline, right? We've got match play. We've got a 2-week tour championship. There might be multiple. There's a season-long winner. There's now the tour champion at the end of match play. But I guess at risk of me rambling forever, I'll just kick it to you, Nick. What were the headlines, the few things you wanted to start with here about this new tour championship?
Brian Rolapp is awesome. First and foremost, like that's probably just my biggest main takeaway is that you look at the work he's done since taking over in January and just all the initiatives season. We still don't even know all of the facts, honestly. There's still stuff that they're piecing together. There's still things that are being worked on, but you look at everything that he's done since taking over as PJ Tour CEO and commissioner, like it's night and day from when he took over. Like match play is especially the one that a lot of people were clamoring for, excuse me. The fans desired match play, and the fans will be getting match play. And quite frankly, I think this is better than even I could have came up with.
It is.
Because
It's like, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
like the one issue I had with match play, and we had talked about this in previous episodes as well, is that match play is really good in theory, and then you get to that final round, and it's just two players on the golf course, and it's like 10 minutes of ads in between shots, and it's like if the match ends early, you run the risk of losing out your broadcast window. Like, there's reasons why the PGA Tour abandoned match play, and I feel like all of those reasons were addressed in this new initiative. So, Will, should I kick it back to you? You look like you're dying
Yeah.
to ramble.
Well, I am a little bit. Just to kind of clarify. I mean, I'm sure anybody who's listening to this knows exactly how this works at this point, but it is our job as journalists to give the high level overview. Um, what will change essentially is there will be like a culminating event. There's still going to be a tour championship-esque event. It'll have some other name.
The
But
championship
that
series finale.
Yes, there. Okay, there we go. The championship series finale with some sponsor attached at the front there, probably. That event will be the final 90. So again, the top 90 players in the championship series keep their cards for the championship series. Will return to the championship series the following year. They're guaranteed that position, and those 90 will play in this finale. And the winner of that tournament, lifts the trophy, does the whole thing. But also at the end of that tournament, we crown the season-long points champion. This is basically the winner of the season-long winner, whatever you want to call it. You can think of it, like Formula One, Nick. I know that'll perk your ears up. The season-long driver of the year, whatever. You can think of it like the Premier League, however you want to think about it. Like it's not a tournament-decided thing. It is a season-long points thing. Obviously, some seasons it won't matter, that last tournament, right? Like this season, if we were doing it this way, Scotty Scheffler's the champion, and we wouldn't even have to play this. It would matter down the list, for the second, third, fourth position, but Scotty Scheffler would be holding that first position. But anyways, the top 32 in the points now go into a 2-week match play format, which is that's the big new headline, right? And the first week of that is I'm going to be doing like sport, not metaphors, but sport comparisons basically this whole way. Think the World Cup for this first week, right? It's again 32 players, 8 groups of 4, and 3 days of match play where each person in the group of 4 will play each other person in their group, and then the top 2 players from each group will move on. There'll be presumably there will be playoffs to determine winners in lots of scenarios, whatever. But the top 2 players who win the most matches from each group will move on to week 2, which will take place on a new course. And those 16 players will do what we kind of expected, the 16-player match play bracket. What I do like, and kind of what you were talking about, Nick, is instead of just whittling it down where, again, it will be whittled down where the winner will be the person that wins 4 straight matches and comes out on top. But what they're doing is all 16 players will play 4 matches in this bracket, and the final order will determine like the bonus pool or whatever will be determined by the player's winning record. Like if they went 3-1 or 1-3 or 2-2 or 4-0, only one player will go 4-0 because that's how a bracket works. But for example, if you lose the first round and then go on to win your next 3 matches, you'll finish with a 3-1 record, and that might be just as good as the person who lost it. It will be just as good as the person who lost the championship match, right? To be 3-1, which I think is good. I think I was a little surprised, and you can pick up for me here, Nick, but I was a little surprised reading the initial ESPN report that came out. Was it Keith Mitchell that was there on their?
Not to be confused with Tweeth.
Not to be confused with Keith, who was saying that I didn't really realize. I think the quote is that players were violently against the idea of match play initially, which is a little bit surprising to me. Again, like you were saying, I get it, but the concept was really just that players, pretty much, especially when you're considering how large the bonus pools are going to be for a tournament like this, like to have one bad round, potentially even like 12 or 13 holes, determine tens of millions of dollars in bonuses, maybe single digits, maybe $5 million in bonuses, whatever, is a little outrageous. So by allowing the players to play, in this group stage prior and then play all 4 rounds, it kind of gives you some wiggle room, a full, 2 tournaments essentially to position yourself well, and remedies some of that. I don't think it's perfect, but it is, as far as appeasing the players and bringing us the match play that we wanted. And also, like you said, we're not going to just have 2 players on the TV. We've got 8 matches going on at the end there, which helps fill that window. We'll be able to bounce back and forth between matches, even though some will be more important than others. But yeah, I was surprised. I guess it makes sense, but I was a little bit surprised that the quote of violently against match play is pretty intense out of Keith. But
yeah, I wouldn't expect violently opposed. Like that's a little bit surprising to hear that. But if there's one thing I've learned, I would say, as of maybe 3 months ago, I was violently opposed to the championship and challenger series and all of these new initiatives. I thought it was going to ruin the PGA Tour. That being said, Brian Rolapp just has this ability to really sell whatever he's pitching and just make it sound like the best idea in the world. And so you even saw Adam Scott, who's on the board. Rory was speaking today as well. Like all of them said, like, hey, we weren't really sure about batch play of this tour championships, that we weren't entirely sure about this, but we were ultimately convinced, and we had met. Like that's, Brian Rolapp is taking the time and speaking with these players directly and making sure everybody is on board, and he's able to get them on board. Like he really, I think, to me, the best part about all of this, and you've already gone over like what this looks like. I think the best parts for me is an acceptance of who they are in the first place. I think he said during his press conference, like, yeah, this is America. We do playoffs in America, and playoffs work for the NFL. They work for the NHL. They work for Major League Baseball. The PGA is none of those leagues. And so just because it works in American sports does not mean you need playoffs on the PGA Tour. Matt Fitzpatrick was saying a similar thing a few weeks back as well. And so to be able to make it like the season-long points list, which a lot of people were clamoring for, but also have that sort of like big playoff finale that people are asking for, he's able to kind of just take the best of both ideas and just combine them into something that is truly revolutionary.
yeah, it's funny. It's like I've got 2 thoughts here. First, in response to your point, I think Brian Rolapp does just like a really good job of simplifying his own job. Like it really does feel like he said, I think when he first came on and had the press conference in June prior to the Travelers Championship, and there was such a positive reaction to that, or the positive reaction to Brooks coming back, stuff like that. Like each time, he's spoken, he's kind of come out and just been like, yeah, man, it's not that hard a job. You kind of just listen to people and do what the people are asking for. And in this instance, it's, he listened to fans and he was like, okay, no, this is what we need. We need a playoff, and we need it to be match play because that's what the people want. And that's like kind of the only way to make this really interesting and exciting. But then also go listen to the players, just hear what they have to say, hear how they would fix it, and then find the happy medium. And it feels like that's what he's done. I think what I will say, my one not even qualm necessarily, but like a hesitancy that I have around this is again like a lot of the reason for this is because of the current iteration of the PGA Tour playoffs, which are currently the FedEx Cup playoffs that'll likely change, whatever. The current iteration just is boring. Like it doesn't feel like playoffs again. Like it doesn't feel like we're culminating this week at the Tour Championship by saying whoever wins this tournament is the best golfer of the year. Like that's not what we're doing at all, even though that's technically what we're doing in name, right? But what I'm a little bit hesitant about what might happen in 2028 is I understand why we have two winners, but it almost feels like inherently one of them is going to fall by the wayside, like just by nature, right? Like it feels like one of these two, like whether it be the season long champion, and I think there will be excitement for both, right? Like not every year, but there will be years, where, and we'll have, trackers up like, oh my God, Scotty, if he wins this week, will clinch the season long points list, will clinch the player of the year, whatever. Like that'll happen. There'll be excitement. But I feel like when we look back in 10 years or whatever at 2028, 2029, 2030, whatever, and there will it seems maybe this will be perfect, but it seems likely to me that there will be one of these two champions, whether it be the season long champion or the tour champion at the end of match play, that kind of gets favored and really considered like the best of the year. Again, they're two
Well,
different things, but
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, it's always weird. And that's why you've seen these sort of aggressive changes, be it the starting strokes, which makes
mhm.
me shiver just even saying those words, um, be it that abomination or even just what they had last year of whoever wins the tour championship is just straight up the FedEx Cup champion. And so those are kind of because yeah, like you mentioned, it would be kind of anticlimactic if Scotty wins the player of the like he wins the season long race and then I don't know, Tom Kim wins the the
Yeah,
finale. And it's like, okay, well, Tom Kim won the championship. I mean, that would be sick if he did. It's just a random hypothetical, but yeah, I'd be like, okay, well, he's the winner, but Scotty's the champion. Like it just makes it a little hairy. So it's like I understand where there's that level of apprehension.
yeah, but I mean, I think it'll be great, right? I do think it'll also be year to year, most likely. Like, right, if we get a year where we're coming in, it's the same with Formula One. I'm sure I'm not a huge Formula One guy. I had a year or two in the wake of Drive to Survive, like every kid my age did. But um, it feels like there will be inevitably a year. It probably won't be 2028. It'll probably be a minority of years where you get to this new what did you call it, championship series finale, this new finale, and it actually matters for the season long race. Like there's a chance that somebody could, like, obviously again this year there would be no chance, but there will eventually be a year where it matters, and I feel like that will be really exciting. And I almost feel like in that kind of year you might get like, oh my God, this is so exciting, and then you get kind of a letdown into match play. But I think the beauty of match play is just that it's exciting and volatile. And to move on a little bit, we're still in the same vein, but one of the things that I'm really excited for is to see where they will actually play this stuff. Because one of the things that they've talked a lot about is finding new courses, not necessarily courses that are strangers to the PGA Tour. I'm sure we're likely to see a lot of venues that have hosted major championships, stuff like that. But what I really hope they do is that they pay attention to the fact that we're playing match play, because that really lends itself to a specific style of course. I think you saw that at Marion with the U.S. Amateur, but it's like you want volatility, you want a really interesting closing stretch. You want, obviously, it needs to also just be practical. Like, I said this in June, but that there's if they wanted to go play Fisher's Island, that would be sick. But you can't get people there. You can't host people there. And there's also things like Pine Valley. Like, are their members going to shut down the course for 2 weeks or a week to allow this to happen and allow all this infrastructure? I don't know. But I am really excited to see what they do with it. And I think there's a lot of courses that are already, I'm deep in the fantasies of like what courses they could take this to and where they could play this stuff. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, as a college golf sicko, I am absolutely starting the campaign for Omni La Costa in California to be one of the host sites because that's just the course that is it's like the match play home for the NCAA championships and it's been there for a while now and it's a great course for match play. And so I think that's definitely a course that I hope would get some consideration. But yeah, just seeing, and I think that that's a key as well, is that, East Lake is still going to be a part of the rotation. He said, like, it's still going to get consideration, and there's going to be flipping between the two different. He's going to flip between the two uh, courses in a sense, or what am I even saying at this point?
Between the 2 weeks
They're
of match
going,
play there.
yeah, and then they're going to flip between courses that the PGA Tour has played at, while also making sure that they hit places that, are historically new. So I'm very excited for what that's going to look like. I think he even mentioned that, just looking at the amount of sponsors, there's 4 events that I think still need to be confirmed. So right now, 7 of the 15 Championship Series events have been announced. 4 more are confirmed and have yet to be announced and will be announced in the coming weeks. And then that leaves 4 more that they're still working on. And so that, he said, in those 4 tournaments, they have approximately 14 sponsors that are willing to come on. And so I imagine that's a very similar pool of courses that are offering themselves for this match play format as well.
Yeah, to just directly quote from his press conference here, he said, "This is regarding like the match play championship specifically. As somebody asked, basically, what are you looking for? How are you going to find the proper courses?" Brian Rolapp said, "I think it's important. I think to everybody that we're able to go to places that you don't see very often at the PGA Tour. So I think it has to be a challenging championship course. It has to be a place that America doesn't get to see very often. I think it has to be a site that excites our players and fans." And he said that, "I think it's going to be a really unique and grueling competition that we haven't seen in golf before," which I thought was a little funny to throw the word grueling out there. I feel like that doesn't really appeal to the players themselves, but
exactly,
it does paint a good picture, and it kind of sets some boundaries, right? And he also, in the ESPN article that came out before his press conference, he talked about the fact that the West Coast allows them to be in a good broadcast window, while the East Coast kind of has more courses that go unvisited regularly. Like I've said, courses like Marion, Philadelphia Cricket Club, I think could be really fun. Stuff like that. I mean, we saw Ronimink this year. That could be a fun match play course, as much as it potentially wasn't a great PGA Championship course. And on the West Coast, I actually think LACC, as again, like it wasn't the best U.S. Open host, but in terms of match play, it could be really fun. There's a lot of volatility. There's holes that that I think it's the par 4-6, I want to say, that's drivable, but can be a very there's all sorts of opportunity for players to take different options and stuff like that at a course like LACC. There's going to be a ton of options. Again, we're waiting till February 22nd is when the official announcement for the entire. By the way, they're doing like a whole selection Sunday thing, which I kind of love. Like,
right?
they're doing like a full broadcast, which it's also funny because like we know a lot of it already. By the time we get there, I'm sure we will know. I mean, we'll know, I guess, 11 of them at least, if not all 15 sponsors. But I guess the ordering and the real reveal, I think, on that day will be the Tour Championship venues for the match play, which will be interesting. That's when that'll be announced, but it'll only be for 2028. Obviously, I imagine as we go forward, there will slowly begin to be like a rota built out pretty far, the same way we see with major championships. Like we know where the U.S. Open is going to be played in 2038 or whatever. I imagine that will begin to be the case as we get through this, but. For now, yeah, we'll have to wait till February 22nd to get to know the full calendar for 2028, at least the championship series.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. Even you mentioned the schedule release is going to be a live televised event, and so it's like you just look at everything he's done over the past year, and like he's really good at his job. And
dude, he's NFLifying the PGA Tour. You can tell he was at the NFL for 20 years and knows how to do this.
And it's like he's not even. I don't want to say he's not trying hard, because he obviously is, but it's like he's not doing anything like revolutionary either.
Well, that's what I mean when I say like he's simplifying his own job. Like he's just responding.
Exactly. I was like, what was everybody else doing prior to this?
No, seriously. Well, it was funny too that he opened with like a tribute to Jay Monahan. It's just like, man, it's tough. But
I think he even said like, you guys aren't gonna like this one.
Yeah, he did, which was funny. But is there anything I was gonna flash what we had up, Nick? What the groupings would be in 2026 if we want to just do that, so we can again play the hypothesis game. a little
And
bit
that's
here.
what I love about having all of this information, like being able to piece this together. Like we even saw like what the top 125 of this year in terms of the FedEx Cup, like we were able to say like, okay, these are who would qualify for the championship series, and like these are the names that would headline the Challenger Series, and woof. But now especially we're able to see what the group stage would look like based off of um, we'll see if you can see it. It's quite small.
We apologize for the tiny little image here, but it's the best we got. And this was tweeted out by P. McDonald, I believe, from CBS on X. But
is his first name P or?
No, I just don't have it open. It just is an initial. But Patrick McDonald, I can see it in the background here. Sorry, it's a little faded. Patrick McDonald from CBS, but you can see, I mean, there's a couple of good ones here, like a Siwoo, Rory McIlroy, Alex Patrick grouping, obviously Scheffler with Matsuyama, Burns, Schauffele, Hovland, and Scott would be awesome. Chris Goddard, Ludwig Oberg, and Tom Kim in that group is great. Like,
don't disrespect Alex Smalley.
I'm going to disrespect Alex Smalley. In that group of four, he's going to be the one that I admit. I apologize, Alex. But there's some opportunity for fireworks here, and then obviously, like we said, we would be picking two from each of these groups. Also, just the opportunity for like a March Madness bracketology type thing rocks. Like I know, in 2028, as we get towards the end of the year, there's going to be some ESPN, Yahoo Sports, whatever format where you can, as soon as we get to this group stage, I'm going through and clicking my two players. It's auto filling out a bracket for me, and then I'm picking my bracket from there, and we're going to be chasing, that perfect storm. I just can't wait for that. I mean, already I'm like just looking at this, like trying to hypothesize about who could beat who and why Tom Kim would come out of this group with Goddard and Oberg and stuff like that. But there will be a lot of time for hypothesizing in the off season, but this is kind of a first look at what this might look like in the group stage, at least.
Yeah, it's. Do you have any additional notes on this Tour Championship? Because I have breaking news.
Oh boy, pressure's on. I don't think I do. I think that was kind of everything I had to say. There's more that I want to get to from Rolapp's press conference, but that can kind of cover everything from the new Tour Championship, at least.
Yeah. This might feed directly into that. Some might call this a big break, if you will.
The Good Big Break? Oh, boy.
Golf Channel is postponing tonight's premiere of Big Break to next Tuesday, September 1st. This will allow for necessary production updates following a request from one of the show's sponsors to remove its branding from the series.
Damn. That's pretty wild. You can see that announcement right here. Obviously, so for context, this is in the wake of Good is the sponsor of the Big Break. Good, we covered this yesterday. We're not going to go through the whole thing. Good came out with this ad for their driver. Apparently, we'll get to Matt Kendrick, the CEO of Good's memo that went around. It was supposed to somehow be in the same vein of Obsession, the movie that has obviously taken box offices by storm. But Good sponsors the Big Break, and that was meant to premiere tonight. And apparently, one of the show's sponsors removing their brand. I wonder who. Obviously, it presumably isn't Good that's removing their sponsorship, but I'm curious to see if that's going to start a waterfall or we're just kind of going to get one or two. Interesting.
Yeah, this is worse than I thought it was going to be. Like, this is not like.
I didn't foresee this happening, honestly.
It's the internet. Like, people are going to get mad at stuff on the internet, and I understood the backlash. And like, I'm not saying that backlash wasn't undeserved. That ad, like we talked about it at length.
Blanket statement: Center Cup does not approve of Good's ad. It was so dumb and horrible.
Center Cup does not condone domestic violence
or violence of any kind.
Violence of any kind. Just put that, big letters. We should have had a banner ready. So yes, there was valid backlash for this. I didn't see it snowballing to this effect. Like you even saw, like, first off, shout out to whoever it was that decided the third question in Rolapp's press conference was the right time to ask about Good. Like,
bold.
Shout out whoever that brave soul was. But Just looking at the quote from Brian Rolapp, he said, I think what we saw was concerning and
This is
clearly not
about Good Good's
aligned.
response also.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah, the blanket response that came, I think, what was it, 2 days after the ad was deleted in the first place?
too long after, whenever it was. I don't know if it's exactly
So
2 days.
Rolapp was asked how, if he thought Good adequately addressed the situation and if he was satisfied with their apology. He said, I think what we saw was concerning. It's clearly not aligned with PGA Tour values. We take it very seriously. I think their initial response was disappointing. It was a bit defensive and late. And then he was further asked whether or not it would affect partnerships with the tour in regards to A, Big Break, or B, the Good Championship in the FedEx Fall. And he said, it sounds like in the last 24 hours, they've made some progress. We'll continue to monitor the situation and see how it develops. And
yeah, I think what was interesting to me hearing that, and obviously seeing this now, is that I think most people in the golf space know that this was not like a direct attack. Like Good, for whatever you want to say about them, they are expanding the game of golf, and they are helping expand the game of golf to women. They have Good Girls. That's like a huge brand that they've been expanding very rapidly over the past year or so, year or two, I want to say somewhere in a year to 2 years. They've had that brand, and they do feature that quite heavily across their channels. So like, do I think that Good has some agenda against expanding golf with women? Absolutely not. Do I think
that was never even up for debate? Like,
right, but do I think that this was a like ridiculous and very, very stupid ad to put together and somehow made it through several levels of marketing? Absolutely. But it is interesting to see. Like you said, I think this to me, this like a sponsor pulling out of the Big Break in the wake of this is really a byproduct of the media response, not of the act itself, right? Because I think
this is true.
Like you're saying, like it doesn't feel like people in the golfing space consider Good to be some pariah that has all these poor motives. I think the reality is that the reception of that ad and the broader public opinion from people who maybe know golf, but also some who don't know golf and have just seen this ad and don't know anything else about the subject matter, is obviously going to push brands to do this, to pull their sponsorship from events like that. So we'll see if it continues to waterfall. I mean, again, like Callaway issued another statement in the last 24 hours. What's surprising
at midnight, mind you.
Yes, I saw that. It's 16 hours ago, and I was looking like 2 hours ago. What's surprising is that, to my knowledge, I mean, I know Matt Kendrick. He spoke the other day with, who was it, Nick? That he was
the Wall Street Journal yesterday.
The Wall Street Journal. Like I said, a memo of his that I actually thought was fairly well written was made public by the sports business. Front office sports, I should say. This is, I mean, obviously going to continue to unravel / re-ravel over the next little while, but interesting for sure that sponsors are starting to pull from the show.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that Callaway statement, because Callaway made an initial statement as well. That was also another one of like, we are aware of backlash. We don't condone violence, whatever. Like just the regular bullshit PR statement, and then they made their new statement, or Chip Brewer, the Callaway Golf CEO, made this statement at midnight, which I saw that as I was going to bed last night. I'm like, why is this being sent out right now? He said, last week, Good and Callaway posted a video to promote a co-branded driver. While the video was produced by Good, it was approved by Callaway prior to posting. Wow.
Bold to admit that.
Yeah, that approval should never have happened. Mistakes were made, and we're taking the matter very seriously. I'm not going to read you the full statement, but it's just. And first off, I'm just realizing the pun in our title. I just understood that like 30 seconds ago. So
you didn't get the bad ad thing.
I didn't, and I wasn't looking at it too closely. So fair play to Will right there for coming up with that. But yeah,
I can't argue that was original. I've seen it in plenty of places, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's no headline is ever original these days.
It's true.
But yeah, that's just I don't understand. Like, first off, I didn't see Obsession. I'm not a big horror movie
You
guy,
should.
so
Great movie.
I did not watch Obsession,
But it has
so
nothing
like
to do with this ad in the slightest.
yeah,
Like,
I was just about to say I didn't get the ad in the first place. Just that was lost on me. It also just wasn't very clear that it was upset. I think it took that memo being made public for people to even say, "Oh, was this supposed to be Obsession?" Like
well, and one of the
that.
people didn't even
That's
say that. It was just said in the memo. The advertisement was intended to be a parody of the movie Obsession, but the execution missed the mark and included content that should not have been published on our channels. It's very similar. Like, but again, this is from Matt Kendrick to Team Good Good, which I assume is their entire employee base, as far as I'm aware, whether that be media personality, marketing teams, apparel designers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he goes on, again, like you said, Nick, I won't be reading this whole thing, but for 6 years, Good Good has worked to make golf more approachable, entertaining, and welcoming. Produce hundreds of hours of content every year with the goal of creating media that is family friendly, entertaining, and inspiring. This advertisement did not reflect those standards or the organization we aspire to be. And then he goes on to talk about Good Good Girls, like I mentioned. They've removed it, publicly apologized. He did say that they will be donating all proceeds of driver sales associated with this campaign to an organization supporting women in our local community, which is to be named later. He said they will. They're determining which organization will have the greatest impact, and they will share that organization once they've identified it. But he took accountability. Again, like we're too far gone, right? Like we're not recovering at this point. But I did appreciate that he said, our response cannot simply be pointing out what we have done in the past. We need to take action. I think that's the right thing to do in the shoes they're like in the position they're in, which is one that they put themselves in. So I have no sympathy for them. But as far as response and crisis PR, they're doing what they needed to do.
right. They're absolutely handling this as well as they could. I mean, they put themselves like
Now they are.
Yeah,
5 days
now
later,
they're
whatever
yeah.
it is. But
I mean, yeah, though that first statement was rough, but I think the part that I like the most is that he's going to be personally overseeing and personally approving every single bit of content that is being put out for until further notice. So whether it be that just regular content, be that marketing. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the donations. It sounds like they're at least trying to not erase what happened, but make good of what happened. And so, sure, like go team, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Again, like this is the one positive thing that has I don't want to sound like I'm being rah team good here, because in reality they've made a massive mistake, and it's going to mar their brand for the foreseeable future, and there will be lots of people that simply will not buy their products anymore. And I do not blame them. Like, it was a pretty unforgivable thing to associate your brand with and to like quasi encourage in an advertisement, which again, obviously wasn't their intention, but it's also hard to watch that video and take away anything else pretty much. So I don't know. I don't want to ramble on too much. Again, we talked about this a ton yesterday. We're just bringing the updates here as best we can. But I'm sure there will be more to come as well. Obviously now with sponsors dropping out of things like the big break. And we'll see, as Rolapp mentioned, it's a very fluid situation, and we'll see what happens with there's a good championship coming in FedEx Cup fall. Like, we'll see what happens with that.
Right. Like, if there was any, like, we've talked about the rise of YouTube golf, be it through Bryson DeChambeau, be it through, anybody else. And if there was anybody that would be worse for this to happen to, it would be Good. They are like absolutely the pioneers of YouTube golf. You can't go to a golf tournament and every fifth person is wearing some kind of Good merch. They have over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. As you mentioned, they have a PGA Tour stop sponsored by them. And so like this is far beyond just like little YouTube golf people just kind of having fun. This is officially like entering into the realm of professional sports with their influence. And so for Rolapp to not even be able to say whether or not they will still be playing in the tournament is kind of bizarre to me, to see how it's grown to be that big. And I I don't really have. Yeah, we could talk about how despicable that ad was until we're blue in the face, but that was just, man, I would not want to be them right now.
No, I would not want to be in their shoes. At risk of, a poor transition from something that deserves like a more serious face to back to like Brian Rolapp's broader comments, that like there is more that we need to cover from what he was talking about. And I think we should try to get through that quickly considering we're at minute 35 here. But the we covered almost all the actual news. I think what's left is basically to talk about what's still to come, what's still expected. And a lot of that is the Challenger Series. It sounds like essentially they've been head down on the championship series, and now that is pretty much formulated or formatted, whatever you want to say, they will be pivoting towards the Challenger Series. He said they've received a ton of inbound interest from existing and new sponsors to become sponsors for the Challenger Series, excuse me. But they just really haven't had their attention on that to this point, and they haven't been, bartering or bidding or whatever with their with those potential sponsors. So that will happen over the coming months, almost a year. I think he mentioned that the 2028 Challenger Series schedule is expected to be announced at next year's Tour Championship. So we've got some time. We got about a year until that comes into fruition. But obviously, similar to the Championship Series, we will be getting news here and there. I'm sure as sponsors come in, we will be hearing that the X tournament has been moved to the Challenger Series for whatever date in 2028. The other big one, maybe, is that there was pretty definitively no returning player program to be reinstated, rebuilt, made, whatever, any of that stuff. That's not going to happen. Nick, I know that was you agree pretty strongly with what Brian Rolapp had to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Basically, just a bit of backstory. He was asked about, obviously there's been a lot of rumors circulating about Live Golf and whether the future is even sustainable, whether or not stars like Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Tyrrell Hatton even are going to jump ship and try to come back to the PGA Tour. And Brian Rolapp essentially shut that down today. He said there will be no returning member program. I'm going to try and pull up the full quote just so that, because I thought it was very okay. I got it right here. So he said, first off, the PGA Tour is built on meritocracy. Every player, whether they're already here or trying to be here, they're going to earn a place based on their performance and on their success. That's a core principle of the sport, and it certainly is of the PGA Tour. 2, the tour is a membership organization. It has rules. Those rules exist for lots of reasons, for fair and competitive reasons. They exist so we can actually create the tour as you know it. Rules matter. 3, rules only matter if they're enforced. So accountability and discipline are essential to any organization and certainly for the integrity of the tour and for the game, especially in a game that prides itself on rules and integrity. So I have 2 thoughts on this. Rules didn't matter when you extended an invite to Brooks Koepka. So I will say that, like, first and foremost, you can't, like, that is kind of showing like a double-sided nature if, you're going to bend the rules for Brooks Koepka at the beginning of the year and, refuse, like, to take a hard line stance that rules are rules when you had previously broken the rules before. Like, that was my initial reaction upon hearing that. But then I thought about it a little bit, and, those rules were offered to be broken for Jon Rahm, for Bryson DeChambeau, for Cam Smith, and none of them took it. They had their opportunity to jump ship, and they chose not to. And so you look at what the DP World Tour is doing and, reinitiating their fines as well. And, if they, especially now when these players are expected to try and rework their contracts and essentially escape their contracts, what the DP World Tour is basically saying is that anybody who is playing on Live in 2026 or 2027 at this point is doing so by their own accord. And so we're not going to give you a pathway to come back when you have made your choice to stay with Live. And I think that's the same way the PGA Tour is operating right now. Is like they had their chance to come back. And so they're not going, especially now. It made sense, like, at the beginning of the year. it made sense at the beginning of the year because like this year was just going to be like a normal year on the PGA Tour, and if it was a normal year next year, then it would probably factor down the same road. But now we have look at what 2027 is going to be. You have everybody's going to be gunning for the Championship Challenger Series. It's going to be the first real audition for these there's going to be the audition for 2027, and so they're trying to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible, and getting John Rahm back is just going to create a distraction for that. So as good of a move as it would be long term, like I don't.
It's also like, on one hand, I was thinking about it too. Like I would love for them to come back, and I said I think yesterday, if not last week, that I think he will extend an olive branch again. But I do think when he did it the first time in January, it was described as a one-time opportunity, and it would be tough for him to kind of backpedal that and say, actually, now it's 2 times. Now the LIV is collapsing or whatever. So I get where he's coming from, and I get why it's a bummer. It's a bummer only in the sense that I want those guys on the PGA Tour because they're good golfers. That's it. Beyond that, like, I don't care. Again, I don't care about anybody else. I just want like John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau and Cam Smith if you want to extend that too. But that look, it's I totally get where he's coming from. You can't backpedal as much as, like we said, he will listen to people and do what people ask for. You can't go too far back on your word. The final thing mentioned and disclosed today that now seems like years ago was that there is now a LeBron James Family Foundation Invitational. It sounds like LeBron's connection to golf is just continuing to grow and grow. He is now his foundation, I should say, it's not a PGA Tour event, but it will be, I believe, in early July of next year. It's a 2-day event. It's Brian Rolapp brought it up in his press conference as primarily a major fundraising opportunity and a chance to provide service and support to the community. It will be at Firestone Country Club in Akron, Ohio, obviously LeBron's birthplace, but also, a very legitimate golf course and one that has hosted major championships, I believe 3 PGA championships, including one that Jack Nicklaus won. Just to breeze through this a little bit, the event itself will have alumni of the PGA Tour's Pathway to Progression Pro Bound 5. If you thought the Aon Swing 5 was confusing, it gets way worse. This is the Pro Bound 5. It's essentially, it provides a player development stipend and supplemental resources, which are primarily meant to be used for travel, to its members. And those members are standout collegiate golfers who come from historically underrepresented backgrounds. So you can piece that together. It's usually 5 players. And I guess the players themselves in this event will feature amateurs and professionals from, current Pro Bound 5 members, past Pro Bound 5 members, etc. But there will also be lots of opportunity for kids in LeBron's I Promise program, again, around Akron, Ohio, and their families to get resources, to learn from professionals if they're interested in the golfing aspect, but also just to raise money for those causes. So kind of, pretty all around positive one there. Not a lot to take from that negative. It's just good to shout. And again, it's funny, what was it, 2 weeks ago that LeBron made his YouTube channel and was doing his 10-year reunion Cleveland Cavaliers golf scramble out in Scotland or wherever he was. So he's taken on the sport from all angles at this point. But
yeah, when I first heard that, when I first heard Brian Rolapp say that, I thought that he was announcing a PGA Tour stop, and I thought that's hilarious. And so now that we know what it is, I think it's really great that the PGA Tour is upping their philanthropy and just trying to get more involved in communities and trying to foster golf in communities that maybe might not have access to golf. So golf has historically been known as the sport that is not for everyone, and especially with how much these prices are on clubs, greens fees, like it's very much a not accessible sport. So to be able to make that jump and try to remedy that a little bit, I think is very respectable.
Definitely. Is there anything else we are forgotten from Brian Rolapp's press conference? Any other breaking news that needs to come out, or should we talk about the Tour Championship that's actually taking place this year?
The one thing that I will say before we can get to the letdown of the Tour Championship in 2026 is that the PGA Tour Americas and the Korn Ferry
Oh,
will
yeah.
still be a part. He especially mentions the need for development and progression levels, and just even something like PGA Tour University. It's not something that they have an answer to yet. There's still a lot that obviously needs to be ironed out, but he did emphasize the importance of those tours and that they want to make sure that those tours are a part of the future.
Yeah, to clarify, my understanding of that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that like they will exist in concept. Like it won't be the same Korn Ferry Tour, it won't be the same PGA Tour Americas, but there will be it's like a pathway, right? Like there will be another tour below the Challenger Series that is not PGA Tour that will have a feeder program into the Challenger Series, essentially, or similar to how it is now. I would presume, the best player from whatever that tour might be might go to the Championship Series directly, whereas the next 25 go to the Challenger Series, whatever. That's all to be determined. But yeah, there will be some feeder programs. But yeah, like he said, it really sounds like they've just kind of been grinding out this Championship Series as hard as they can, and now that they're kind of through all that, they're going to start moving on to the Challenger Series and kind of formulating the access points, who goes where, how they actually get these players to these levels in 2028 and all that stuff. So a lot more to come on that over the next few months. I believe he mentioned they're targeting November for some of that, obviously some in February, some next Tour Championship in 2027. Like we get a lot of pit stops along the way, I'm sure, at the Travelers too. It seems like there's always a press conference there, so we got a lot more to go.
Yeah, definitely. We're still piecing this together. We don't have all the facts. Brian Rolapp doesn't have all the facts, and so we're kind of just along for the ride here. So we've enjoyed it so far, and we look forward to. You mentioned that he is going to address the media at some of these board meetings as well. So we'll be getting more information soon.
Yeah, well, like you said, Nick, East Lake is going to still be a location on the Championship Series, if not, something vaguely in the rotation for the match play events. But it is where we will play this week for the Tour Championship. We are down in Atlanta in August, which I still think is ridiculous. But we get, this year, the Tour Championship. And again, kind of the talking point here outside of crowning the Tour champion is, the player of the year conversation again. I think we talked about it kind of ad nauseum yesterday, but what I wrote down, what I think is true, is that if either Wyndham or Scotty win, obviously they will win the Tour Championship, or they will win the player of the year, and the Tour Championship. If Chris Gotterup or Cam Young win, then it gets really exciting for me, because then we have three players that we have to pick between. But outside of that, even Matt Fitzpatrick, who I know would have 4 wins on the year if he were to win, I just don't think between consistency and, name value of wins, I just don't think it's there broadly. Cam Young would have the players. Chris Gotterup has more consistency across things, and he has his own major championship in his win. Oh my God, I'm totally blanking on it. What was it?
The John Deere Classic.
The John Deere. Thank you. God, I wanted to say CJ Cup, but I know that that's the one that Wyndham won. So yeah. Anyways, that's kind of one of the main talking points. But interestingly, it's a course that appeals primarily to accuracy. Like if you look at, again, not to be all data golf all the time, if you look at data golf's course fit tool, the guys at the top there are Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Alex Fitzpatrick is all the way up there. Matt Fitzpatrick's a few spots behind him. Oh yeah, imagine we get an Alex Fitzpatrick Tour champion, like most awesome possible event. Yeah, again, like it's a weird tournament, right? It's only 30 players, but at the same time, it's the 30 best players. So usually you get like a crowded leaderboard of really, really good players at the top, and it almost inevitably will be a handful of really good names near the end. But again, we thought that for the PGA Championship and the Open Championship and even the U.S. Open, but I guess we can kind of call Wyndham Clark one of the good names now, right? I feel like he's brought
now
that.
We can, yeah.
Yeah, he's reached that level.
There's definitely some good players. You even just look at course history. This is a course that people who, and now granted, there's only 30 players in the field, so that kind of makes it
we got to discount some top fives and stuff, but they're still top fives. But
yeah, I mean, Xander Schauffele has, outside of not making the Tour Championship in 2025, he's finished in the top 5 in his last 4 attempts. Wyndham, obviously,
top 7, 8 straight years prior to that, which is crazy for Xander Schauffele.
Russell Henley finished T2 last year. Victor Hovland obviously won the event in 2023, and that was with starting strokes too. So it's important. Like even Rory's win in what year was that? That was 2022. Rory's win was coming from behind with starting strokes as well. So very impressive in its own right. Patrick Cantlay is an interesting one for me. He's a really interesting pick.
You said that yesterday. I don't disagree. He's played really well here, and he won it in 2020. I just don't think he's gonna win. I think he'll be top 8 probably, or whatever. But in terms of
I don't think he's gonna win, but I think he'll be in the conversation come Friday. He'll be in the conversation.
Yeah. He'll be like 2 shots back, and you'll realize that you've seen maybe 3 shots of his the entire weekend because they just forget he's there.
Yeah, exactly. And then, last year's winner, Tommy Fleetwood, pretty good from an accuracy standpoint. Could theoretically, finish T47, not overly great last week, but it's been a very consistent, kind of dating back to the Memorial actually. Ever since missing the cut at the PGA in May, last week's T47 finish was his first time finishing outside the top 25, so it's been pretty consistent. It just kind of all went wrong for him last week at the BMW Championship, so I'm not expecting much out of him. That would be really funny if his only 2 wins came at the BMW or at the Tour Championship. Will might just curl up into a ball and just cry.
He would still have 0 wins. Wouldn't change it.
Will's gonna go and sit outside the college campuses, just set up the table and be like, Tommy Fleetwood has 0 wins, change my mind.
Yeah, seriously, I should do that. That'd be a good bit. Except it's not a bit. I actually believe it. But.
Exactly. Victor Hovland is one that is interesting for me. I don't know. It's been kind of up and down since winning the Travelers.
But that's just him, right? Any given week he could win, he could come dead last. I have no idea, but he could. I mean, from an accuracy standpoint, if he's playing well, this is a great course for him.
Right.
But you just have no idea what's going to show up when you talk about Victor Hovland.
He's kind of rocking. I forget who even was this player that we were referencing, but he's kind of got one of those data golf pages where it's 3rd at the Canadian Open, miscut at the U.S. Open. Win the Travelers, 13th at the Scottish, cut from the Open, T19 at the St. Jude, T33 below average there. So maybe he's due for a better result this week. Kind of ebbs and flows, but
who knows?
Colin is an interesting pick. Just beware the injured golfer, as you were saying yesterday. T4 at the BMW. This is a course where length is not going to really hurt you as much. So he's an interesting one. If we make our picks this week, I'll give some consideration to him. And then of course, we'll find out tomorrow when he talks how Scotty is feeling. We'll know.
He did say over the course of last week, he said it got better and he felt better as we got towards the weekend. So presumably he's kind of mended at this point, but I don't, if he's got hand, foot, and mouth, you can consider me out.
That was good. That was smooth. You're just feeling it with the. Did you read that one online too, or is that?
No, that was straight off the dome.
Okay, we still have some original thoughts on this show, so I think it's pretty easy to preview a 30 event or a 30 player. Do you have, considering this is the last, I know there's still FedEx Cup fall, but considering this is the last event of the 2026 season, do we have one final prove me wrong guy? I know we haven't done these in a while.
Oh, you're going to have to let me take a glance at the field real quick. I know it's a top 30, but you're just going to have to let me do this for 2 seconds. So in essence, the prove me wrong guy is meant to be somebody that it originates from me saying I would never ever pick Nico Echeverria. Just scrolling through the leaderboard and be like, well, Nico Echeverria is not going to win, and then he fucking won.
Actually, I think Garrick Higo was the first.
Garrick Higo was the first. That's true, and he almost won. That's right. It was Garrett Higo. Wait, well, I don't even remember what the impetus for all this stuff was.
I think you
So
just said
long
like, yeah,
ago.
Garrett Higo is not winning, and he missed the cut,
I've
and then
yeah, I've got it easily. It's Akshay Bhatia, certainly.
ooh,
Really weird year. Won the Arnold Palmer after a pretty good start. Kind of rebound, like very up and down. Missed a lot of cuts, including the Masters. The PGA Championship was T17 at the U.S. Open. Missed the cut at the Open Championship. Is coming off a T12 at the BMW, which followed a 68th at the FedEx St. Jude Classic. So, might prove me wrong. I would like for him to prove me that the anomaly is all these missed cuts and terrible finishes, and not the T12 at the BMW. And he's played pretty well here in the past, if I remember correctly. T13 last year, again, it's a field of 30, so it's not actually that well. It's been T13 and 26th in 2 years here, so whatever. Yeah, I'll say it's Akshay Bhatia for the final prove me wrong of the year.
yeah, that's
We will
fair.
not be doing FedEx Cup fall prove me wrongs. That's not. I can't scroll to the bottom of those fields and pick somebody for you.
Yeah, that's FedEx Cup fall is going to be interesting this year. So, yeah, with that, I don't really have any more notes on the Tour
No.
Championship. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, we can pivot to our broader worldview here. We'll start with the DP World Tour. There's a handful of events going on, pretty much what you'd expect. DP World Tour, we're at the Husqvarna British Masters, which parentheses hosted by Sir Nick Faldo, which is nice little addition there. There are some names in the field. Tyrrell Hatton's been the one that's getting most of the run, obviously playing in his first British Masters in a while. Patrick Reed, again, in the field as a DP World Tour member for now, returning to the PGA Tour in 2027. Marco Penge, Eugenio Shikara, also coming to the PGA Tour in 2027, among some of the bigger names in the field. Do you have anything on Tyrrell Hatton, or do you want me to go straight to LPGA here? I feel like we don't need to spend a lot of time on the Husqvarna British Masters.
Yeah, I don't. It'll be interesting to see these live players on the DP World Tour. They're essentially playing for position now, and like just trying to basically do what Patrick Reed did and earn his card through, which we haven't checked up on Patrick Reed in a while. Like, has he?
He hasn't been doing much, but he did enough early. I'm pretty confident he did more than enough early to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he still in line for
positioned in the race to Dubai? I'm opening it up right now. He is still.
He's still leading it.
Yeah. The 2 wins are pretty good. Rory McIlroy, Eugenio Shikara.
Which those are only the majors, I think. That is it. Or no, it's more than the majors, I think, because he started the year in Dubai. But yeah, I just see 4 tournaments with Rory. Are those the 4 majors that are counted, or there are other tournaments?
There's 8 tournaments played for Rory listed here.
Oh.
There's the ones in like December, the race to Dubai. Alfred.
I'm in the bonus pool. I'm in the wrong tab. There we go.
The Dubai Invitational he played. He played the Hero Dubai Desert Classic. Yeah, there's a handful.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, I was in the wrong tab.
And then you get the majors, the Masters. Yeah, so he's got 8. Patrick Reed's got 14. Obviously, those couple wins really bring him up the list there. Same with Eugenio Shikara. I think he's got 2 wins, right? Yeah, 2 first, 1 second, 1 third. Pretty good stuff. But yes, he is.
I'd say he's pretty safe.
Yeah. I don't think we have to worry about Patrick Reed. We will be seeing him next year, for certain. But with that, I can move on to the LPGA then.
Yes,
the FM Championship, which is headed over to TPC Boston. Shout out, go Red Sox. Aphrodite Dang back in the field thanks to a top 10 last week. Very impressive. Didn't realize that got her straight back in this week at TPC Boston. So, we'll be keeping track of that. Another amateur, Paulo Martin San Pedro, is in the field via sponsor invite. And then broadly in the field, you kind of just have everybody. Gino Titokul, Nelly Korda, Miyu Yamashita, Haeron Ryu, Kyoju Kim, all the names, whichever one you want to name drop, they're going to be there most likely. Chiara Romero also in the field on the back of a really good performance last week, minus her Sunday round, that 75 on Sunday that kind of brought her out of it. But definitely a lot to follow at the FM Championship.
Yeah, definitely. This is, I think, 10 of the top 10 players in the world are playing this week. So should be a very...
Otherwise known as all of.
Otherwise known as all.
Yes.
So yeah, be a very, very interesting week. Yeah, I don't have much to add. If anybody was rushing to watch Big Break tonight, you otherwise had your
So
evening
sorry.
cleared. You could spend the rest of the time with us. So
For the next 3 minutes before we call. But then, elsewhere, the last two, PGA Tour America's CRMC Championship, just to name drop these, we're going to be in Brainerd, Minnesota for the PGA Tour Americas there. And then the Epson Tour Dream First Bank Charity Classic, Buffalo Dunes Golf Club in Kansas. Those are the last two. Like we said yesterday, Megagane, Daniel Sfard coming off his win on the PGA Tour Americas, and Megagane coming off her first professional win on the Epson Tour. So we will continue to, hashtag monitor the situation a little bit. But with that, we can talk about what's next. I think really what's next is that we're going to have a champion on Monday. We're going to have our current iteration, at least, of a tour champion, which will be exciting. Again, we'll also recap the LPGA, whatever happens at the FM Championship, all that stuff. We'll give you probably not a lot more than the winners on the PGA Tour America's Epson Tour, unless something real exciting happens or it's a name that we're really excited about. But I'm sure there will be plenty of drama this weekend. And I'm also sure, like we said, with this good stuff with Brian Rolapp's press conference, we're anticipating 4 more championship series sponsors to be announced in the coming weeks. There will be continued information. And also, I believe on Monday, Nick, we get the President's Cup captain's picks are made.
Okay.
I believe it's September 1st. Is that Monday, September 1st? They're due September 1st, I know. Which I'm pretty
That's
sure.
Tuesday.
September 1st, we will be getting the captain's picks for the President's Cup. And presumably, it was said to be after the Tour Championship. We will also be getting more information from Jim Furyk on what the new qualification process for the Ryder Cup looks like. That's meant to come. That's not scheduled, I don't believe. That hasn't been determined, but we are expecting that in the near future. He said after the Tour Championship. So probably around when the President's Cup picks are made, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a press conference involved there. So keep an eye on that as well. But we'll be keeping you up to date on Monday when we come back and recap whatever might have happened at the Tour Championship and whatever the hell is going on with the big break and the good championship and whatever else, or whatever other fallout from that. Again,
I'm really hoping there isn't more fallout from that.
It would be hard for it to get worse. I mean, I'm
don't even put that in the universe, because it will get worse.
I know. Well, I understand. Again, I understand why brands are pulling out of or not brands, I should say. A brand is pulling out of the big break. I get it. I am surprised that is happening, though.
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't expect it to get this big. So
right. With that, you have our social media. It's all over the screen. You got Center Cup Pod at Center Cup Pod on X, up in the top left, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Top right. Yep. Thank you, Nick. We got at centercup.pod. That is TikTok and Instagram. And then our email right up in the center, right there, centercuppod.pod at yahoo.com. Constructive compliments only, please. Nick, any final words here? Any lasting thoughts from Brian Rolapp's press conference, from our preview of the Tour Championship, which was albeit brief, but anything?
I mean, I'll close it off with what I said to open it. Brian Rolapp is awesome.
Brian Rolapp is awesome. We can definitely close it with that. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and yeah, we'll catch you on Monday.